Hello, I'm Mark Diaz-Truman from Indie Plus, and we're here with Gaming as Other, Work, Games, and Life, which is part of our monthly Gaming as Other series that we do with Game Night. Gaming as Other explores topics of race, gender, many other sort of other categories, and our experiences in gaming. And today, how those gaming experiences might translate to the real world, right, outside of gaming. This event, like all other Indie Plus events, conforms to Indie Plus's community standards. If you'd like to know more about those community standards, go ahead and Google Indie Plus community standards. We're the top hit. And today's topic will, of course, deal with race and gender issues. So if that's not for you, we have many other things you should check out. But that is what this panel is going to be about. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to very quickly ask everybody to introduce themselves. Like I said, I'm Mark Diaz-Truman, one of the organizers of Indie Plus. We have three wonderful guests with us today for Gaming as Other. I'm just going to go down the list and ask them to introduce themselves. And then I'm going to kick it over to Julia, who's going to be leading our discussion for today. So first, Strix, how about you?
Hi, I'm Strix Beltran, and I have a cat in my face. I'm a PhD student that studies the intersectionality between mythology and gaming. I'm also a Gaming as Other advocate. I've been doing these sessions and panels for a while now, and I'm really interested in this topic, so glad to be here today.
Awesome. Misha?
Hi, I'm Misha Bushager, a longtime gamer, million-time caller, and my day job's a database analyst, which has nothing to do with gaming or well, it has something to do with being other, but, you know, life is fun, so.
Good, cool. And Julia?
I'm Julia Ellingbo. I'm a gamer. I write games. I write LARPs. I play LARPs. And in my day job, I am a human resources manager, director person, and I'm also one of 3 interim directors of a food co-op. Like you said, I'm going to be moderating today.
Awesome, good, cool. Well, I'm going to kick it back to Julia then and let her take over. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started.
All right, so I'm just going to paraphrase the little intro. If you've gamed as Other, you've probably worked as Other, like I do, like I think all of us do. And so the question is, can we apply what we experience and learn in gaming and with others to other aspects of our lives, including work? This came about because I am actually going to be on a panel for a conference of HR managers working in co-ops. And the discussion we're going to be doing is diversity and inclusion in the workplace. I'm with 2 other people in this workshop or this panel. My part of that is that I'm going to be giving the experience and presenting the experience of how it doesn't work, or basically the fail of diversity and inclusion. What I mean by that is that what happens when you don't really look at these issues, and why it's important to look at these issues, and how do you get started. This came sort of at the heels of the last Gaming as Other, and I thought, well, gee, a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about I've learned not just from doing HR stuff, but from games and my relationship with the game design and the gaming world community. So I was then curious, how do we all sort of take what we have, and what do we bring when we're coming to a game table, and what do we take with us when we go back home, because we're still the people who we are. So does anybody want to jump in, or I can keep going? I can tell you a little interesting thing.
So yeah, I had a long conversation with someone on Google Plus about the kind of what I call exclusionary atmosphere of gaming, and this person was pushing me pretty hard on how exclusionary it was, because it wasn't exclusionary for them. And it dawned on me during that conversation that half of my experience in gaming has been incredibly inclusive and welcoming, right? Like, I can just be like, I love all these geeky gamey things, and I sometimes pretend to be a high school fairy who likes boys, and that's totally cool. And I sometimes do that, like, so it's totally inclusive, except when it's not. And it reminded me that one thing I take away from my conversations with Gaming as Other is that it's like a little practice area for talking with people about race and gender and other things. And I've learned from that the values of the institution, whether it's a gaming community or a business or whatever it is, even if they aren't being enacted 100% of the time, like the people who are in that institution believe them to be really important. And that can be bad for these discussions if they say, well, look, I'm just not even going to listen to you because that's not our values and what you're saying just doesn't line up with my reality. But it can be good if we can frame our discussion around it and say, well, I know we want to be inclusive, and this is one way in which we're not being inclusive. And I think it was easier for me to learn that in gaming than it was to learn it at work, where it's like a lot of other politics and sort of conversations are happening at the same time.
Cool. I like the definitely the what the community wants part. You know, what do we want to get out of this? And I think that's really important. That our values. What are we bringing? What are we taking away? Yeah. Cool.
So.
Misha. Or Whitney.
So I want to share something that goes the opposite direction from work to gaming. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I used to be a consumer banker. And I worked in an urban area, and most of my clients were Black or Hispanic. And it was kind of a rough neighborhood. And anytime there was a problem, and it got like bad, suddenly the issue was that I was a white person and that I was being racist. And I was shocked because I am this mixed race person that identifies as Hispanic. I'm like, I'm brown too, like I don't understand. And I realized something very important, and that is everyone's reality is different, and they may see you as actually a different race than you identify as, and that means that they are suddenly applying a lot of things that maybe you're not even thinking about into a shared reality that you now have to negotiate. Now, if shared reality that you have to negotiate sounds familiar, well, that's exactly what we do in gaming, right? And so I took these experiences, which were sometimes very hard, right? And I applied them to sort of existing in the game world. And if I want to play a different race than I am, or something that's, a dark elf, or someone who's green, or whatever, I now realize there's a whole set of things that come with that I wouldn't have known otherwise without these experiences. So I thought I would share sort of things brought into gaming from the workplace.
Great. Cool. All right, Misha.
Yeah. Actually, one of the things that I brought from gaming to the world, and this kind of came up earlier this week. We had a kind of company picnic kind of thing, and so I pretty much pulled an X card in real life, which was something I don't know if I might have done had I not had the confidence and experience from gaming to do in real life. So it was kind of interesting. So it was somebody was making a comment, and it was a little on the racist side. It was kind of bad joke about something about Asians and driving, I think. And he was like, yeah, no. And we're like, no, dude, no, come on, yeah, no, come on, you gotta cut that out. So some of the things, it is like Mark said, a kind of a practice place where you can work some of this stuff out and build your confidence and be comfortable enough in your skin, even if the skin that you're currently playing in is green. But being able to be confident in that skin, you can then take to your real life job and say, okay, no, this is not okay, or yeah, that's cool, or feel free to call people out on when they're doing it. I mean, if you can do it in game, why can't you do it in real life?
Great. So something that I also think about, gaming is practice to sort of get that difficult piece, and how do you articulate things or how do you say things that are hard to say with a lot of people, and I find that's very, very true. And in a previous life, I was a student nurse, and when I was doing my psych rotation, I was working with a client who was a lifelong drug user, and he was in rehab, and he had just come back from, when I was talking to him, he had just come back from basically a role-playing session on how to say no to your friends when they're breaking out the crack. And he was sweating and shaking, and he said, you know what, I feel really, really good, but just pretending that we were all sitting around doing drugs, and how much I had so much pressure to say no, even though I knew it was just a game. I now know I'm probably going to have those feelings tenfold when it's actually happening. I've had that experience on a lesser level. Not that I was really yearning to smoke crack or anything, and then went back to work and did it or anything like that. But in talking about things that are really uncomfortable or feeling like, wow, you know, that really was not okay to say. When I'm sitting with my friends, or it's either in character or out of character, I get to practice. I don't want to be treated this way. I don't want other people to be treated this way. Then I go to work and I hear some weird random incident, and I can say, all right, you know what? I don't think you want to be treated this way. Let's practice. Let's practice how we're going to talk to people in the future. And I also found that in games and in the gaming community, I really actually learned how to be other without feeling other, I guess. That makes any sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I think that it also for people who don't feel other but are sensitive to these issues and talking about them, I think it also is a practice area for them too, right? I think Julia is way too humble when she says she's just a game designer. She created a game, Steal Away Jordan, that really pushes people, but it's super fun. And in it you play slaves, and that's like, even for me, when I played it, Julia, I was like, I'm going to do this. This is kind of crazy. This is not my experience. This is not part of my cultural history. It's certainly part of my cultural history as an American, but it's not my Latino history. And then we played it, and it was just like this amazing experience to be like putting yourself in that place and trying to practice thinking about what are the decisions and choices you would have to make. And so I think one of the reasons we're such big advocates for games that represent the other well is that I think we as a community believe that if white people, just broadly, non-others, are playing others, that starts to be a sense of what that experience is like. And you start to say things like, oh, I wouldn't just be able to do that, would I? Huh. And really puts you in that mindset where you can start to appreciate other people's experiences. I think the best games are the ones that push people for that, and I think our community is ready to embrace them and wants to embrace them. But we also, I see a lot of nervousness about that. And so I'm curious for you all about how you think people overcome the nervousness of role-playing, which is sort of like, I've already committed to be here pretending to be something I'm not, but now I'm having to pretend like really be something like, I'm not just an elf, I'm a minority, right? It's almost like the crazy logic that happens. So how do you get people to kind of, across the board, jump into practicing?
Well, I think that we make it clear that it's low stakes, right? Real life is high stakes. And when you're in a game, the stakes are much lower. For me, the confidence and experience and exposure I got through gaming, in the game and around the gaming communities, allowed me to bring those things back to academia, which has lots of problems. But I also play games that I am uncomfortable with, but are really amazing. How We Came to Live Here is an excellent example. And you learn more about otherness or non-otherness or how things are. Like, the more you explore it, the more nuances that you find, right? And so if you can communicate to others who are playing these games, and you can internalize the fact for yourself, like, it's low stakes, right? You can still upset people, right? You can still do things that aren't good. Like, if you're really trying, you'll manage. But it's not real life, and that gives you a lot of leeway that you're not really going to get anywhere else, which is part of why I love gaming, right? And that's why I'm so excited about gaming as a genre of play. So that's what I think.
I think of the concept that in games you can fail and there's a reward, in a sense. So the absolute failure of anything, you're going to get something out of it, whether it's you get this really fantastic ending to your story, or that you just fail and you actually don't get run over by a bus. Yeah, you got hit by a bus in character, but you're still going to get up and go pee. You're not going to be in a hospital and nobody's going to take you away. And so this is something that I tell people that I've mentored, that don't be afraid to fail, and sometimes you have to practice these things, and that's something that I think we can all take away from games. When you fail miserably, oh my gosh, it's so fun usually, or you have this crushing feeling and yet you can get up and go drink a glass of water and debrief and calm down and realize, okay, I didn't actually truly fail in real life. But you still may get some of the physiological manifestations of a failure or a loss or grief or whatever. So you learn what those feel like. You learn how to address them very, very easily. And so when they do come along in real life, in work, where you do screw up that project, you take a deep breath and you say, all right, well, yeah, I failed and I'm not going to get any XP for this, but I'm going to get XP in experience and maybe something else. I'll learn something. Hello?
Okay, so I don't think Misha wants to say anything, but I actually wanted to jump onto that really quickly and put on my nerd academic hat. So one of the things that I actually study is the embodiment of character, right? And so when you embody it in character, what we find is that parts of your brain can't tell the fiction of a game apart from reality. So, but definitely like the frontal lobe knows, like, I'm playing a game and this is not real. But some of the deeper parts of your brain just experience what they experience, right? And so, yeah, you actually internalize and you learn these things that your character did because you're also doing them. So you were talking about physiological responses. I know that if I haven't experienced like a negative physiological response before, I go, oh no, what do I do? And I maybe will just sit there shocked or stunned, right? Whatever. But if I've experienced in a way, like low impact, like in a game first, then I recognize it and I can deal with it and I go, okay, next step. And so I just wanted to add, like, yeah, there's really a lot of theory and science behind that we're still exploring as game studies people. But that's a really good point that you brought up, and it's awesome. I could talk about that forever, but I won't.
So in my work as a community organizer, I do a lot of narrative work where we get people to tell their stories. And one of the things we do is we try to move them from a framework of, this happened to me, these things happened to me, to saying, these things happened to me, and then I did this, and then there was an outcome. And I always laugh when I talk with gamers about this because it's basically, although it's in all role-playing games, it's basically like how Apocalypse World works. It's like you're walking around, and the MC says, this bad thing happens to you. And you say, oh no, I'm going to make a move. And you pick a move, right? You say, this is the move I'm going to make. And then we roll dice because we don't know what's going to happen. Like it might go well, it might go poorly. And then out of that outcome comes another challenge, right? And it's like, that's the framework that Vincent wrote into Apocalypse World, that very explicitly, it's not like a secret in there. It's like, this is what's going to happen. There's going to be an event, you're going to respond, and then there's going to be an outcome, and the outcome probably leads to another event, and then you respond, right? And it's like, with gaming, we're training people to be agents. We're saying, like, okay, so what do you want to do? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And when people are asked that, especially like the first time, sometimes they're like, I don't know. I've never done this before. What do I do? And eventually they kind of get to the point where they are really capable of and saying what they want to do.
Great. Misha left us and has returned. And are you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah. I have a lovely old computer that I really, really need to replace, and it just decides every now and again to just turn off. So, and I totally lost that train of thought. So I'll let you guys go back till I figure it out again.
Okay. I think we are almost wrapping up. Yes, looks like it. So any final thoughts? We'll start with Strix.
Sure. Do gaming. It will help you learn real life skills. So challenge yourself and fail, and it will be fine.
Mark?
Sure. I think as you're doing that, especially for experienced players, like, push yourself. Find a place to be uncomfortable in that space, and you can take it outside. I feel like, I talk about Monster Arts a lot because I think Avery is just an amazing designer, but I feel like I've actually grappled with issues around sexuality I wouldn't have grappled with ever in my life because of that game. And I really thank them for that. It's like a gift to the rest of us. But you have to participate. You have to try it in order for that gift to be realized.
Yeah, I think if I had to say one thing, I'd say don't be afraid to fail, especially when you're gaming. Yeah, you're not going to get it right the first time, but by trying, you learn, and by learning, you can do better. So.
Great. And I totally agree with Mark. And I can't read my handwriting. Oh, I was going to say it's okay to learn. I mean, I think sometimes there's a stigma of this is an educational experience. Well, okay, everything we do inside and outside of games, everything you learn that you learn. You're always going to learn something. And so if it's an educational game, if it's supposed to be an educational game, that's great. And sometimes you might learn something that is purely a fun game, absolutely a fun game. And I agree with Mark. Like, I learned a lot about just myself in playing Monster Hearts, and in aspect that, as you know, middle-aged soccer mom, I had not thought about in 25 years.
Yeah. It's also part of being okay to learn is it's okay to not know. Yeah. Right? Like that, you have to be able to say, like, you know what, I don't really know this. That's kind of weird that I don't, even though it's supposed to be about me, I don't know this about myself. So.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. I wanted to thank everyone for indulging in this topic, because now I can bring a lot of this to my work panel, and I can talk some more about all of this.
Good stuff. Well, thank you all for participating, and just remember to subscribe. I think the button's like here on YouTube if you're here, and then you can get all kinds of Gaming as Other and other cool Indie Plus updates. And the rest of the day we're doing other events with Indie Plus, and we'll be back next month. So please subscribe, follow us, and be a part of our community, because we're excited to keep talking about indie games and issues in indie games. So thanks.
Yay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.